Hello and welcome along to the Unplugged Pod, where each week we explore absolutely everything to do with switching off in a world that's always on. I'm David, and alongside me is Mr. Unplugged Hector Hughes.
And this week we're joined by Georgia Gibson. Georgia is the founder of Uni, who are tackling the mental health epidemic at universities. Hope you enjoy.
The Unplugged Pod.
Georgia. Look, I thought that was an early applause for my podcast hosting so far.
I wanted to do a clap as well, to clap myself in.
I would have taken. Look, I know you've got lots of ventures and side hustles and things that are all in the background. But first, I want to say thank you very much for coming along to the Unplugged Pod. And yeah, we're going to start as we always start, Georgia, by asking you, how do you unplug?
Nice. I love this question. I would say that I unplug kind of by plugging in to other things that aren't the things that I need to unplug from. So whatever it is I'm working on, I'll kind of reset and plug into a different pursuit. I'm not really someone that unplugs by doing nothing or just chilling out. I do need to get better at that, though. I think that is a skill. But I prefer to kind of like, whether it be, music's a big one for me. I grew up in a very musical family. I play the saxophone. It's kind of like my hobby. And I love just putting on some jazz music and just completely disappearing into like an improvisation. So that's probably one of my main things that I do, because I can just kind of completely go into the flow and I just sit in the sound, sit in the song and just play.
That sounds pretty unplugged. When you say you need to learn how to just do nothing, why do you think that is?
As in, why do I feel it's a necessity, or why do I? Well, I'd say that I think like happiness is a bit of a habit rather than necessarily just like a sentiment or a state or anything like that. And I think it's also one of the biggest hacks of productivity. Like if you're feeling happy and secure, it's going to benefit your professional, like all different professional pursuits and stuff. And I think that sometimes, because I am someone that likes to be active all of the time and sort of work all the time, I then confuse being busy with like being really happy, and then actually you just get burned out and I'm less productive because my mind's in multiple places and then it like affects your decision making. I think you just make worse decisions when you've got loads and loads on because you're less clear minded. So I think I just need to learn a way to be okay with just sitting still sometimes.
How would you rate your happiness at this moment?
My happiness is actually really good at the moment. It really is, and I think
You're very smiley.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm good. I think fake it. No, I'm joking. But I think November's a really unhappy month. I think it's probably the worst month. Like, no offense if your birthday's in November or something. Your birthday's in November.
Don't worry about it.
I'm so sorry. Wait, which day of November?
It was like 3 days ago.
Okay, well, happy
birthday.
Wait, did you not know that?
I'm not a birthday guy. So yeah.
Birthdays are weird.
You just trashed November, so carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, hate November, hate you, hate no, but no, I am actually because I'm feeling very focused at the moment, and I kind of really know what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, which is kind of a cool sentiment to feel, because sometimes, especially as an entrepreneur, you get existential crisis moments where you're like, am I an entrepreneur or am I like just unemployed at this point? Like, what's going on? And
the eternal dilemma.
Yeah, Joey. And then I realized, actually, no, I've had a few examples of like impact, and I'm like, okay, I'm in the right lane. I just need to work out how to drive as well as I'm using a lot of slogans and metaphors. But anyway, that's kind of...
Love it. I always wonder when you said happiness is more like a state, right?
Or more like, I think it's more like a habit
like
than
a
a
habit,
state.
sorry,
It's a skill, I think.
Sure. It's I don't know whether that's, when people say that, I don't know whether that's them talking or like Naval talking, because that's like a big element. Do you ever read or listen to him? Okay, so he's big into that, how it's like the only true measure of intelligence is, are you getting what you want out of life? The only true measure of, because people think they're intelligent, right? But like the only real measure is like, are you getting what you want out of life? And if you are,
because
then
that's
you're
a smart way to
sure,
live.
like, yeah.
Okay, maybe.
It's a theory.
I don't think I'm intelligent enough to know whether that's intelligent.
So humble. Okay.
Yet.
You said you're in the right lane, but there's lots of lanes, right? Doing a bit of a deep dive into what you're up to at the moment, Georgia. There's lots of lanes. Let's start with uni. because it seems like that's your big venture, right? That's your baby. Before we talk about how it came about and why you think it's relevant and why it's meaningful to you and so many people, I was looking at the statistics behind students at university these days, right? And you can prove anything with statistics, but one that bounced off the page at me, which you'll be far more familiar on the latest research than I will here, but like the ONS said 1 in 3 students in their first year of university reported feelings of like loneliness, depression, anxiety. That feels crazy high when I think back to my days at uni. Perhaps I was just lucky with the circle I was in. Why do you think that is? Is it a mirror of society, or is it specific to the time we're in and the place that people are in at university?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I mean, it's mental and it shouldn't be that way. And being depressed, anxious is not synonymous with being in your early 20s. And I don't want that to become the norm and to think that that is part of growing up. Obviously, mood swings, obviously working out who you are, your identity is a stressful process. But it does not have to come part and parcel with the university experience. And like, we only need to look at the past. Like, that was not the case. Why is that the case now? I mean, I think there's like a plethora of problems that students are facing, but I think fundamentally it's a cliche, but lack of community is a big one. And why is that? I mean, social media, again, people have heard that, but let's go deeper. Like, why is that? Because actually, if you can find connections, maybe that's a good thing. But for me, it's short-term versus delayed gratification. And this is kind of what links a lot of my lanes, is that I'm like obsessed with promoting delayed gratification and the impacts it has on your life, and links to what we said about happiness being a skill, and a strategy for that is finding delayed gratification. And in the university circle, what I mean by that is helping students. What students have lost is kind of how much of an opportunity university is to try loads of different stuff out, loads of different hobbies, whether it's sports or music or drama or careers or what have you, and meet such a range of different people who have different niches and quirks. And I think university's become all about working hard to get grades to go into a 9-to-5 boring job, or getting, am I allowed to swear? Cool. Or getting fucked. Yeah. So like, that's either way. So I think what we need to realize is actually, I want to completely flip the focus of the university experience, and I want it to be about the extracurricular stuff, because that is like those moments where you meet someone or you go to a gig and you're inspired, and that is one where you like find yourself. It's where you find your people. It's where you find your passion, and you're then more motivated to work hard on your degree because you feel like more satisfied. You have a better clear of who you are as a person, and a better picture of who you want to be post-uni, which then helps like so much with your job choice and all of that. So I think just a lack of direction and lack of identity, of people actually not knowing what they're doing. They're spending loads of money on a university degree and being like, I'm either fucking hungover or I'm like really up late trying to get this essay in because I want to work in investment banking.
And on the delayed gratification point, I mean, what brought you to that conclusion, and how do you think that shows up?
Yeah, I think a few reasons. I think that I was very lucky to grow up in a family that really promoted that from a super, like, we were always told to do loads of stuff that wasn't our schoolwork at home, like whether it was musical instruments, and I'm very privileged to being able to afford that, because that in itself can be an expensive pursuit, but in the sense it was like it wasn't over the top, but always taught the power of learning a discipline from a young age and being really bad at something for a long time, and realizing that if you practice every day you will get better, and just seeing what a beautiful process that is. And then if you get better at a musical instrument, you can then play in a band, and then you can meet people, and then you're like, oh wow, so if I practice something by myself, got good at it, I then can have more friends, and then I'm playing in a band, I'm playing in these circles, and that learning that. And then I kind of saw the power of what that does by realizing that not everyone has that. And my mum does a lot of work with gangs and people from kind of underprivileged backgrounds, and she always said to me, the one thing that you cannot teach to someone who has never experienced it firsthand is like that power of delayed gratification. Like, if you don't teach that to a kid, you can't say to someone as like a 25-year-old, oh no, like anything worth doing is quite shit at the beginning. Like, why would you go through that? Especially not as a generation where we can literally spark our dopamine so quickly with a scroll. There's no incentivization to, I mean, you're learning the piano as you just told me, and I love that. But there's really no incentivization to any of that because I can just watch TikTok and get a boost. Or I can, you know, go out or whatever. So for me, it came from my childhood and realizing how much that gave me a different perspective. And then I've actually never had personal social media as a result. Because I just saw, I was like, this is not what my brain is going to react well to.
It's worth saying that again. You've never had personal social media as a result.
I've never had a personal Instagram account. I say personal because I now have one for my company. But before that, I'd never had Snapchat. I never had Instagram. And I missed out a lot. Like, that was a weird decision, I think, for a 14-year-old to make. And I definitely, I don't know, like, it wasn't great for my social life. Now I think back, I think maybe I would have had a boyfriend earlier or something because everyone was like communicating. I mean, I'm gay now, so actually that didn't bother me. But at the time, it would have been great. And like, it was how a lot of people made friends. I had Facebook for a bit, but then kind of didn't really agree with how the platform worked or its founder very much. So I kind of left that side. But yeah, I saw from a young age that Instagram was going to do some stuff to my brain chemistry. And I was like, I'd rather build a better platform when I'm ready to do that, which is what I'm doing now, than like sell myself to it.
And you seem to be someone who's, you know, has a, I would say, very wise insight on how the mind works. I would maybe push back that you can't learn delayed gratification beyond the age of, say, 25. Like, did you not think?
Yeah, no, that was kind of an arbitrary figure. But you can, but it's a lot harder, I think. And as in, you can learn anything post 25, but it's when you're like, chemically, it's when your neural pathways kind of solidify a bit. Neuroplasticity is just harder past that age. So learning any new skill, and whether it be a concept about learning a new skill, is just more difficult. That's kind of where the 25 came from. But I just think university, all those years pre that, if you can really try out as much stuff, you're putting yourself in such a better position for the years when things do ultimately get a bit harder. I mean, again, going back to your piano experience. I don't know how you're finding it, but just that's kind of where I got that idea from. But I'm no expert in neuroplasticity too.
No, but I mean, anyone over the age of 25 will tell you it's a lot more difficult, if not impossible, to learn
new skills.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It's just harder.
Sure. Georgia, I'm older than you. Hector's in the middle, right? When I was at university, I don't know about you, Hector, but when I was at uni, I felt like everyone was just having a great time. Like, that might have been my bubble. Maybe it might have been my uni. Maybe I was lucky, etc., etc. So when I saw the statistics that like 1 in 3 are depressed, anxious, like lonely, that kind of thing, I was like in halls at universities. I think loads of people still are. You live with a group of people. The opportunity to participate, as you mentioned, in all these different clubs and activities is so massive. Like, it's the time in your life when you'll meet the most people. So have the statistics got a lot worse? Like, since from when I went to university to there, because it's when I read that I just thought that's so alien to me because it wasn't my uni experience. I mean, how did you feel when you were at uni?
I'm sure they would have got a lot worse. I have a younger sister who was there really not longer at all, and mine was somewhat towards yours, but definitely there were people dropping out with mental health. So mental health issues. So for context, and I'm 29 now, so we're talking 7-8 years ago. And there was quite a lot of people who dropped out for mental health issues. And I think, anecdotally, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, Georgia, you can tell us, but it seems to have just absolutely skyrocketed. And I think it's not just what's happening to people at university, but it's also what state people are turning up to university. In some ways, I think COVID was a little bit of a canary, or a bit of a smokescreen, because it was like, we'll just blame it on COVID, because people aren't having face-to-face lectures, they're having a terrible uni experience. This was happening before COVID. Like, anxiety, depression at university was absolutely skyrocketing. But I don't know, I mean, what was your...
Well, I mean, also I'm always so wary with stats because they just matter on, like, it's particularly within the mental health, because people have only started talking about and diagnosing mental health issues, relatively recently, and looking into student satisfaction and linking the dots. So whether they just were making less stats back in the day about whether people had anxiety, or less people were saying that they had anxiety, and etc. So it's always a bit of a weird one to quantify too much. But I would say that ultimately, yes, I do think people are enjoying university a lot less than they used to. And I do think that's because people are doing less in real life interaction. and just feeling very much one, that everyone else is having a really good time, and the way to have that is to pose about it, is to post photos about it, is to go out and all of this kind of stuff, rather than really find out who they are in like a productive way through activities. And people are so, what I really worry about sometimes is how embarrassed and worried people are to be bad at things and try things out, because of you can film everything and you can post everything everywhere. It's one of the reasons, actually, I was looking into a study about why young people are drinking less. And it's part of it is they think because now, like, if you get drunk and lose control, you can literally be all over the internet and a viral TikTok the next day. Whereas, you know, when we were growing up, it's like your mate would have an ugly photo of you and you'd be like, damn it. But now it you can't really get away with that. So I worry about that also in terms of anyone picking up anything they're not used to, or what might make them feel out of their comfort zone. It's just a way scarier zone to be in now.
Yeah, I guess you just have this new lens of seeing the world, where it's like anything you're doing, there is also that consideration of, is this going to show up on my social profiles?
But then also, I don't want to like completely bitch about social media, because ultimately I want to build a good social media company. I don't think social media is necessarily the issue. I think how it's been built up until now is, but also it's been incredible for people finding out quirky niches and like hobbies and posting about it and all of the good stuff. Like, that is good there as well. I'd never think it's just like black and white.
So tell us, how are you building a good social media network?
Did I tee myself up there?
Me, by the way. Y-O-U,
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, the focus of the uni platform is all about showcasing, as I've kind of been saying, all of the extracurricular activity at university. So fundamentally, the first problem we're trying to solve is by building like a centralized hub for all of that stuff to go on. Because right now it's very fragmented. You know, no one's on Facebook anymore, but some people still post stuff there, not getting very good engagement. Then society organizers and groups and stuff are using so many different platforms to get their community engaged, whether it's like an Insta post or a TikTok or Eventbrite or Fixer or all these different platforms, very fragmented. So first, we want to solve the problem for them. So we want to make one centralized place where they can organize all of their admin, almost like a CRM for societies, treat them as the small businesses that they are, managing engagement, member acquisition, member retention. We won't be using that language, but like that's ultimately what we're doing. And then connect that with a social platform and a feed where you can find all of the events, you can see all of the groups, and you can have a social persona on the platform where you can see what event other people have gone to, because that's always fun. Like, oh, if you fancy someone, oh, that's where they're going to be on a Saturday. Might turn up. And then also fun things like ways to motivate the right kind of socializing. So one of the things that I'm really keen on that we've been looking at into building. So we've just released the first version of the product at the moment, and something that we're building in is a tab, almost like a counter cookies kind of situation. So it's like a reverse recommendation tool. So if we see you're going to a lot of the same kind of events, let's say you've been going to a lot of techno, that's great. But we may go, hey, why don't you try life drawing? Instead of just giving people the, echo chamber experience, trying to make them go outside of their comfort zone and being like, hey, we know this is out here, but, we think you may love it because of this kind of thing. And that actually came out of a friend of mine I had at uni who would always take me to the randomest events that I never would have known out if it weren't for her. And I was like, you are the best influence ever. Like, I wish I could just like make you an API and just like plug you into loads of different social media platforms that always gives a contrary opinion that's very thought-provoking. And I wanted to build that into a tech platform that promotes in real life interaction, so through events. And then the other thing we're doing and building out is thinking about kind of using notifications, but in a positive way. So, we see that you were interested in this event. Why don't you try this? Or this is a society that a lot of people who follow. Why don't you try going to that? Because really for students, like they go to Freshers Week and there's no other platform to find all the societies or like what's going on or ones that they could like, only really word of mouth. And now people are spending less time talking and outside and chatting about that kind of stuff anyway. So that's kind of gone down. So there's a couple of ideas there, but that's kind of the generalized view.
Love it. And you're live now?
Yes, we're live. So we're live as of 5 weeks ago. We launched. We've been building the company for a year, raising. We're coming up to close our pre-seed.
Very exciting.
And building up our tech team, building up the platform, loads of user research. And we launched 5 weeks ago and are partnered with, we have, 53 societies on on the app at the moment.
Amazing. Across.
So we've just launched within Oxford.
Cool.
But we're looking to, first of all, we want to perfect the product there for sure. Just to like, the old product market fit before you, expand too quickly. But we're in conversations with people from a lot of other different universities. We've had loads of interest, which has been great. Like people contact me now to say, can you come to our university? Like we need this, like, so, and also in the America. So people from Harvard, Yale, Stanford have been like, can you build this here? And I'm like, just hold on a minute, we're coming. Let us just get it right first. But we're looking to be in 5 universities like pretty quickly.
Amazing.
And expand out from there.
And on the number of societies,
Yes.
how important is that number? Like, is 53 enough in Oxford? Or
Oh, not yet. No,
Yeah.
I think it's okay for the amount that we've been live. But the platform is far from perfect yet. We still have a lot of work to do to provide the utmost value that I want to those societies and to get more on. Because we're a small company trying to do a really big thing, and ultimately, like, I really want to change like consumer behavior. Like, I really want to change the way people interact and socialize, and that's going to take a bit of time. But it's I think, just being really on the ground and talking to them. Like, I'm constantly talking to our users and like checking in with them and wanting to know exactly what they're doing, and working out the best way to find out information is so interesting in terms of like talking to customers, never asking lead questions like, would you like it if the platform did this? And then they're like, yes. And you're like, wait, I didn't really learn anything from that, did I? But yeah, so it's a good number to start with, but we need to grow.
And an active user is the idea that they're using the app daily, or how does that work?
So the way that we define active user is someone who attends a paid event monthly in the platform.
Okay, but in terms of their interaction with the app,
Yeah, I mean, I think those kind of metrics, I think we're too early to give like as again, the platform's only been live for sort of this academic term. So I think any active user metrics aren't super reliable yet.
yeah, I guess more than the metric in terms of like how you envisage people using it.
Yeah.
Are you envisage that they're going in there to check every day, like what's going on this week? Or
Yeah, so I mean, that's exactly what I want. So I want someone to know that if they go onto uni, they can find something to do either at the beginning of the week when they're looking, be like, well, what events do I want to go to this week? Or like even in the evening being like, oh, I'm quite bored. Like, what's something I can do? I want to meet new people. Also for looking for other societies, like, is there a Spanish society? Because I want to learn Spanish. And then looking up Spanish, being like, oh, there is. Okay. And on the platform, each society have a page, and within it, you can see their photos, you can see their team, you can see all of their socials, so you can link straight to their Instagram, connect with them on different things, and see their live event cards, so all the events they have for that term. So making it really, really easy for people to find all of that information, and then ultimately helping people to find the information that they're not necessarily looking for, but that they could stumble across because they're on the platform.
Do a lot of students come to you and say, like, I'm lonely, I'm anxious, like, how does your platform help me? Or is it more like a preventive measure before people even go to uni? That's
interesting. Is in like...
Like, are you getting messages from people being like, I'm at my, second semester at Liverpool Uni, I haven't met anyone, I feel like this, or is it not, or is it more you're putting stuff in place before people even attend?
No, it's more that we get messages from society organisers and from being like, we're using so many different platforms. We're not getting enough people to our events. Apparently you help with that. How? And then we'll be like, yes, thank you. But then I get a lot of people saying, from the student side, so we really want to solve the problem for the organisers first. And then like, that will then help because they have access to the students as well, rather than just building like a social media. That's kind of like how we're doing chicken and egg in this.
Okay, so I guess by getting the societies on, they will then use that as the main, resource for their event, and they bring everyone in.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
That's
good.
the plan. So, because it's a marketplace really, so we're just bringing on all of the supply people that supply all the events and produce them, kind of thing, and then the students will come, because to be able to connect with those societies, each society has, hundreds, sometimes thousands of members. So if they say, look, this is where we're running our stuff, this is where we, uni have built us this CRM, which can facilitate all of these things. And then, we make it easier for them to connect, because we have a social feed. So you can literally scroll through events as though you were scrolling through TikToks, but they're events instead of, active videos.
Amazing. So the demand side isn't so much of an issue in the early days.
No, which is quite fun for a social media platform because normally that is a bit of an issue. Like you have to go to both sides. Like if a dating app, you need both sides. But no, we really want to focus on that problem first, and solving it for those people will then, because I think also in terms of how do we solve just like the loneliness thing, I think just being like, oh, you need to go out more, like you need to find more events, and then they're going to be like, well, how? And I'll be like, okay, hold on, we'll build that for you. So it's like, that's how we're doing it. It's not just a plaster. Like I really want to get to like the root and be like, this is why I believe from my conversations, and there was multiple reasons why people could be suffering, and there's obviously multiple solutions, but from my end, I really think helping people to find their peoples and passions is one.
Was there like a moment or something that happened to you or your friendship group, or was there like a statistic where you thought like, oh shit, this is a big problem, like this is where I need to come in? Like I mentioned, the 1 in 3 students, which that blew me away when I read it earlier. Is there something that you saw either anecdotally or more like macro that kind of led you down this path?
I think it was both. It was noticing how many of my friends at university were just really unhappy and disappointed, and just not having the experience they were promised. You know, the classic, like, university's the best years of your life, and then you arrive and you're like, where are my best years? Where are they? Like, what's going on? And then realizing how much I gained personally I was very involved with extracurricular stuff at uni, so I helped run a funk band, did some plays as well, and I would always invite all my friends to those events, and like vicariously kind of saw how much they enjoyed seeing different parts of the uni experience, and how much my friends that were involved in like little other communities benefited. And for me, there was such a clear correlation of people that actually left the library to go rehearse or go play football or go do something with actual general sense of well-being, to my friends that were just filling up the gaps in their day with worrying or work or drinking or something.
You went to Oxford, right? So I mean, it's fair to say that anyone that went to Oxford is in the top percentile probably of IQ, and unless you snuck in Georgia, I don't know. Like more or less, that's like, it's a fair thing to say. Do you think that if you're more statistically at least intelligent in terms of traditional barometer of what's intelligent, do you think you suffer more from that? You know, do you think students at University of Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard are going to be so clever and in their mind so much that loneliness and depression, anxiety is a more natural result?
I'm really interested in this as a subject. And obviously it kind of links to what you said at the beginning was traditionally defined as intelligence, because IQ is one, but obviously emotional intelligence is a huge one. I do think from what I've looked into it and from personal anecdotal evidence, people that think very fast, so often people that are quite intelligent who get to conclusions quite quickly, if you translate that ability into the emotional side of their brain, it means they get to negative conclusions quite quickly too. Because they're thinking so fast about solving problems, like, you know, they can write an essay really quickly, they can solve math problems, but then when that pace is applied to anxiety, it means that your thoughts are like dominoes, and you just arrive at like everything is over because you just rationalized it or didn't so quickly. So yes, however, I think in general, it's the idea of being anxious is just for anyone that just feels a bit purposeless is kind of more of the correlation I found, rather than necessarily a particular level of intelligence, just someone that doesn't feel like they're like adding meaning or giving meaning to something in some way, like no matter what that meaning is. Like I know some people that wouldn't be statistically have a very high IQ, but they've found a particular area in which they can give impact, and that gives their life purpose, and then they feel less anxious about their place in the world.
And on the delayed gratification point, you mentioned that's the kind of one of the big drivers for you personally. You're obviously getting to these people quite late, or you know the students, because you know we're already talking about people. But I mean, so I guess the question is like, how do you tackle that? Where a lot of people are going to have tough times with their teenage years as well, and I think come to university maybe without the desire, the appetite to go out and do hard things. So is that something that you can work into the product, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's like kind of a brand thing, in the sense of how do we come across as super, super accessible. So if these societies in themselves, or these groups of people, are intimidating, so no one ever thought that they could be in a debating society, because that wasn't, they see all these posh people who have been debating since they were 12, and they're like, I want to be in a debating society, but I just don't feel like it's, I'm a posh person, so that's not necessarily in some ways, but to say that, but for my own sins, but in a sense that, like, I know that's something that a lot of privileged people have access to, like debating and or society activities, because of certain schools having that. And this is actually based on someone I know, and they were just like, I just don't see myself as being able to do that, but I've always wanted to. Like, I sometimes practice in front of the mirror, like advocating, but I just feel too intimidated. So the way that we can help, I think, boost engagement for those kind of societies and niches is by building a platform that really showcases how accessible they really, really are. So to give you a concrete example for that, one of the things that I do in terms of our marketing is I love going really backstage of these society organizers and interviewing them in a fun way. So we did like a Vogue 73 questions playoff with society organizers to run me through your day-to-day life and stuff like that. Or we recently did a series called Backstage and Bracelets, where we just had like a funk band making bracelets and telling us about their rehearsals, and just giving people an insight into who actually runs these societies, and they're students just like them. No one really knows what they're doing, but they're just having fun doing it. And actually on the platform, the fact that you can see with a picture everyone who's in the team, which actually you can't see on someone's Instagram page, for example, also helps to make it more accessible. So I think it's a mixture of like product features like that, but ultimately branding and just showing people that it's super fun. Everyone's having fun. No one really knows what they're doing. It is really accessible. And if you are the only person, you could also blaze a trail to other people like you by going and getting involved in these societies that you wouldn't normally, or you haven't seen someone who looks like you be involved in.
Love it. What do you think the biggest challenge will be?
In terms of?
The company, kind of getting where you want to go.
Oh, so many challenges. The biggest one, I think it's twofold. Firstly, building a product that's really good. It's really hard. Like, just a very sleek, well-working app, especially when you don't have loads of money and loads of resources. So just transparently doing all the stuff that we say we can do and want to do all of the time, and not having it crash. Which there's always early stage bugs that you just have to iron through, and things come out in the wash. And then our team is extremely agile, and we respond, and like the platform has literally been improving day on day out, and the customers have really been responding to that, which is amazing. They message about something and we fix it, and they're like, oh. And that I pride myself on that, like quick customer service, have loads of people on WhatsApp, constantly being like, fix. But just, keeping people's patience during that journey of their like initial teething problems. And so that probably, and then the second thing is building any social media app when you're basing, your product success is so based on people's social life, and that is just such a weird space. It's really difficult to have.
Fluid, right?
Super fluid, like, and staying relevant. Like, I just left uni, so I know how to speak, talk, market for the market, because I still am kind of the market, but the market moves fast, especially within, university time. So keeping our platform on the money and with the market and yeah, on our side.
And what about running a tech company as a woman? I know the statistics are changing, but very slowly perhaps. And how do you find that? And why do you think it is still in late 2023 such a male-dominated space?
I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg, in the sense that I think there are so few very well-known female tech founders out there, and there is a bit of a you can't be what you can't see. So growing up, I don't think enough young women are seeing it as a possibility. For me, a really big one is Whitney Wolf Herd, who's the founder of Bumble. And the way that she runs the company, I just think is like the way that she's managed to turn her personal story into one of the most wonderful communities and companies, I think, out there right now. But I don't think there are enough examples of that. When you think of your classic founder type, your classic tech founder type, the stereotypes do ring true. There's a lot of tech bros. There's a lot of like Silicon Valley, like, and it is a bit of a weird space. And I'm often the only woman in a lot of these rooms. And I mean, deep down, why is that more than just it kind of being a carry on from not seeing it, not believing people can? I think it's a very, I don't know. I think about this a lot because I've spoken at schools and stuff because I really want to inspire young girls to get more into tech. I mean, I have to confess that I don't have a technical background. So I'm tech literate in the fact that I can understand, I can communicate with my team, but I'm not there coding. So I think also a lot of people think that means that they can't have anything to do with tech, but actually some of the best tech founders out there, you know, Brian Chesky, Steve Jobs, even to a certain extent, like are more marketeers, they're more creative, and they bring such a different skill set to the tech world. And that's where I think is my niche. Like I think actually the reasons that I'm not your average tech founder, whether it be because I'm a woman, whether it be because I'm gay, whether it be because I'm creatively minded, for me has actually been my biggest points of impact and why I think the company is different and has like had different spurts of doing quite well in different ways. So making more young girls feel that they don't need to fit into a certain mold, even in terms of expertise or training with a certain way. And then also seeing more women doing that. And then psychologically, I think, not to gender it, because I think this is sometimes a trap, which is not helpful.
No, generalise away, like it's.
Well, yeah, it's like generalising genders, but I think often it's like that classic story of men will see a qualification seat for a job and being like, I have half, I'll still apply. Whereas women will be like, I need to have all of them. Otherwise, I won't even touch the application process. And I think something I've learned a lot actually from working with so many men is the confidence, sometimes, you know, without any real backing, which isn't necessarily helpful, but the confidence to just really go for things and learn on the job. And that's like the biggest thing I would say to anyone like thinking about starting anything is just like, Google get you a long way. Just like Google, like I've said yes to so many things and then like just filled in the gaps as I go. And I do think that's a characteristically more male trait. I don't know why, but I just hope that changes and more women realize that they can just trust themselves to work it out.
One of the many things I love about your company is, you know, this is very much something you can affect, right? Because university is such a formative period, for better or worse. Like in the UK, you might just end up drinking for 3 years and deal with the consequences. But
Nice.
you know, you can really kind of help with this, I guess.
I mean, I really hope so. I think like one of the things that I have a very strict rule on is that I want to meet in person as many of our users as I can. So I go down to Oxford once a week and I have coffee after coffee after coffee. I don't actually drink coffee, otherwise it'd be a nightmare. But I talk to students all of the time because I think also at this early stage of a company, your brand is so much you. Like I am the brand, and I really want that to accessibility and like doing new things. And I you know, as you say, I hold all of our values so close to my heart. It comes from personal experience that I know that I can talk about it, hopefully make people believe it. But also being able to, on the back of that, which has been super gratifying, quite a lot of students and young people have messaged me and for advice, and I don't feel like I'm qualified enough to give advice at this stage, but for just like how to break into this world, or like I've seen you doing this, or you spoke to my friend about this, or I'd love to meet you, talk to you about this. So already being able to see that impact has been super amazing. So yeah.
And you spoke about predominantly males having the confidence to just go for things. It strikes me that that's exactly what you've done. Where do you think that confidence came from?
I've always had this, I don't know where it came from, this like kind of unfounded belief that if something doesn't exist, maybe it's because I'm the person to make it happen. And that's got me into like starting a lot of stuff. Because like a lot of things don't exist, and it does not mean you're the person to start all of them. But I was just obsessed. I mean, I have now, like, my parents laugh at it because I literally have boxes in my room which are just physical examples of like fast failures. So be the time I wanted to make jewelry, the time I wanted to become an artist, the time I wanted to do this, and it's just boxes of just evidence of me being like, yeah, no. And
what was the most random, the one you look back on and think, what was I
mate.
thinking?
Well, to be honest, furniture company's a bit random. That's quite recent. I've literally done everything. I think modern artist was a bit of a stretch, like really conceptual art, abstract art. I was like, I've really found a hack here, because I just went to loads of galleries and I was the classic, like, I could do this, and I was like, that means I should do this.
How far are you getting with these? Have you got your paintings all up over your house? Or?
No. I'm saying they're all in a box. They're all of my paintings in a box, and I do not bring them out.
Subjective though, you could be a master of your art.
Yeah, well, maybe if one of these companies does go to plan, then I will sell that, and once I have a big name, I'll be able to sell it out for a lot of money. So maybe it will come back, and all the like I also have loads of jewelry that I've made.
How
like,
far did you get with Burniture, your furniture company?
Burniture's still going.
Still going. Okay.
So Burniture and Uni are two things I started right out of university, and they're actually linked in the sense that by this delayed gratification thing. So Burniture came out of me realizing, one, creativity and collaboration is such a beautiful space to help people's mental health. And I saw so many of my creative friends do freelance work and just getting burned out and like not really enjoying it. And I was like, I just want to put you all in a room. And I was like, okay, what's the best way to do that? You need to have a focus. Potentially you need to be working on something together. You need to think about what you could be working on together. And then aside to that, I went down the street and I saw so many pieces of furniture that people have left outside their house. And I went home and I looked up what was happening to that furniture. Like, is there a furniture fairy that just solves it all? Turns out most of it gets burnt or thrown into landfill. And fast furniture as an industry is one of the leading contributors to climate change and all of the global warming buzzwords. And no one talks about it, which I just found astounding, because I mean, the focus right now is on kind of fast food and fast fashion, but fast furniture is huge. And then I kind of realized there's no really fun furniture brand that's like young and cool and does like collection drops and has parties in galleries. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to bring these three things together. And so I rung up the 8 most creative people I knew from school, university, a Zoom call, a networking event. And I was like, how would you like to build a furniture company with me? And all of them were like, what? And then I got them all at a pub. And I was like, no, guys, I think this could be really amazing. And then the Sunday after, we all met in the workshop of a friend of 2 of the collective who are carpenters. And kind of the concept of a craft afternoon was born, whereby we had a focus of getting loads of waste materials and making art out of it. And our first piece was, we knocked on someone's door beside the workshop and we said, do you have any furniture you don't want? And they said, we have deck chairs, we're about to move house. And we said, perfect. Took them out, disassembled them, they were kind of broken, and built a rocking chair out of these 2 deck chairs. And then it just grew and people started to give us stuff. We got an old artist easel, which became a chef's cutting table. We got old church pews, which became garden benches. Inside of a piano, which became a notice board, loads of different things. And everyone so enjoyed bringing their own creative prowess to it. So we had someone who was doing all the graphic design, someone who was taking photos of it. And everyone was kind of like mucking together on these Sunday. And we used to call them like almost like Sunday service, because it was just so mentally cleansing. No phones, just like building. And then we had enough pieces to do an exhibition. We had a solo show, like complete mental attendance. It was like completely packed. All about fast furniture. And then we had a showroom with our pieces. Then we got chosen for 2 international design fairs, New Designers and Decorex. And then we won an award for sustainability. And now we're kind of deciding what to do next.
And if all that doesn't appeal, there's a naked man on the front of your website as well.
Yeah,
True.
So yeah, that's
so it certainly
Ed.
packs a punch if that's your thing.
That's Ed. Everything we make is in-house. Every video, everything you see, we all model and everything. So that's one of the carpenters, and shot by one of the collective, who is riding in a wooden boat, and then he assembles one of our pieces of furniture on a beach. It was kind of
I liked it a lot.
So what does your week look like? Because you also mentioned before we started recording that you are creative director, at the workspace you're in. So like, what? There are many hats.
Yeah, I kind of help with that stuff. So I do freelance creative direction and creative consultancy for a range of companies. I've done a bit for Entrepreneur First. That was probably one of my favorite clients to work with. What does a week look like? This does feel out like French oral. I wake up at. I've had a year of doing loads because I was very interested in becoming the best at what I want to be the best at, and that's creative direction and thinking creativity. And this is a preface to what I'm about to say. And the reason that I've done so much, loads of different things, is that I think with creativity, it's quite hard to optimize in any other way. It's not like business in a way that you can, I don't know, read lots of books or listen to lots of podcasts or like, you know, get really good at mental arithmetic or something. With creativity, I think the best way of having good ideas is having loads of them. And like my kind of USP, or the area I want to really hone in on my skill set, is taking idea to execution really, really quickly, and an idea that works. And by doing that, I wanted to work on as many different creative projects and many different creative people as I could to get as good as I could to ultimately build my own company, which is uni. And I wanted to work with artists. I do, you know, album artworks. I work with independent musicians and creatives, ultimately to give them value and impact, but also to become really good at what I think I can bring to kind of what I'm building. So previously this year, my week has been so scattered, but I kind of compartmentalize it, and I'm quite good at time blocking. So I will really focus in on when I've got a particular task and then cut off and work on the other thing. But it's kind of gone from mostly, 9 to 5 is still focused on building my tech company, but then on the weekends, that would be furniture time. So as I say, Sundays was always furniture. And then my freelance creative direction would kind of be evenings and Saturdays, as it were. But now, in my old age of 24, I'm really honing in on just taking all of that learning and focusing on really building my company. And I do now run a music studio on the side, which I do on weekends. But furniture, I'm slightly stepping back from as much of a leadership role, and doing less freelance creative direction for other people, and kind of just keeping uni and a bit of independent musician work on the weekends. That was a long answer.
That's a busy week. Busier than you, Hector?
Very good, busier than me. Yeah.
What does your week look like? Wait, when do we get to the part where we talk about unplugged? Because I really want to talk about.
Let's do it now. Hector was getting his hands dirty in the tech trenches today as well, with uploading the podcast.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, cute.
There's a lot going on. Yeah. What's your week like?
I'm a little bit more leisurely. I'm quite like lazy work. I feel like you just bang through stuff. Like, I'm not actually good at like doing the work, so
Nice.
I kind of.
You're an entrepreneur, not good at entrepreneuring, not good at doing.
Well, entrepreneuring, I would say, isn't just doing work. It's like working with other people to do work.
Oh,
So
fairs. But I'm sure you are good at doing.
Well, I know you could.
A very successful. I think you're doing yourself down.
Well, so prior to this, I worked at a tech startup, joined out of university, was employee number 2 on the commercial side. Ben, my co-founder, was employee number 1. And I did 3 roles there over 3 years. So sales for a year, ran product for a year, ran growth for a year. And I was really rubbish at all of those roles. Like, honestly, I think I was good at like being in a company environment, like got on with people, like said something bright occasionally. But like the quality of work was really poor. So like this is a much better job for me. Not that I'm good at this job, but it's a better job for me because I can work with other people who are good at doing the work. So everything you see publicly for Unplugged is not me, I can assure you. So,
but to be able to motivate and get that from the people that work for you and produce that work, that is you.
I love the people stuff, and I love the like kind of systems thinking. So like, and actually, I really enjoy the kind of ever-growing complexity of, obviously the further a company gets, the more complex the game you're playing becomes. And like, the early days, it was me and Ben cleaning out the toilets of the first cabin, and it was fun. Like, there's, you've obviously, you can hear the passion now, and like early days, still now, there's that passion of like, we're starting something that's super exciting. But I think I am much more excited about like, okay, this is starting to get interesting, like we're bigger now, all that kind of stuff. So some people just want to be always at that like product creation right at the start. I'm much more interested at this kind of like, okay, how do we really turn this into something huge, basically. So to answer your question, my day, again, I'm not constitutionally built to sit down and like work for 12 hours. So like I do most of my work between like 8 and 9 in the morning, like just bang out the like
Wow.
decisions that need to be made.
Nice.
And then the rest
That's
of it's
your
just like
breakfast.
swanning around and like chatting to people and like trying not to break anything, helping out if I can. So I'm obviously like putting in a day's work, of course. But it's a lot of because it's like you need to make a few decisions well, and I'll spend a bit of time
And
on
then
that
you
at the start of the
might
day, and then the rest of that is just. But no, I think it's really just kind of being there for the people doing the actual work is how I think about my job at Unplugged. There's obviously like fundraising and all that kind of shit, which is
Yeah.
very, very time consuming, of course.
Yeah.
But
I love how you talk about your job.
I
I feel like
always
you
love
do
the-
loads of other stuff, but you're just kind of like belittling it.
But I think, Hector, as well, I always love you sort of justifying, like, not even justifying, just explaining your approach to, like, management and leadership and how you lead the Unplugged team to, like, different styles of entrepreneurs as well, because it always gets the reaction that you've offered, Georgia, which is kind of like when Hector says, I work between 8 and 9 and then I go for a walk. But, like, you wouldn't be able to say that with such conviction unless, like, it worked. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you'd be like, oh no, I do loads of work, and but you're not. You're like, no, my job is to make big decisions for a company that's like going places, and this is how I do it. Like, don't
Optimize your own workflow. That sounds perfect. Also, like, you're a walking brand for Unplugged. You unplug, mate. Like, you're marketing for yourself, right? That's what you're doing from 9 onwards in the day. You're just marketing being unplugged.
that honestly, if I catch myself like working in the evenings, I think to myself, this isn't. I'm a fraud if I'm doing that. So, but I do operate much better if I unplug. So like, I will try and get off all devices at like 6 to 7 in the evening until like 8 or 9 the next morning, and I just operate. I turn up better for everything else during the week. Like if I am working in the evening, finishing something else, I'm a bit more overstimulated when I go to bed. Maybe won't sleep as well. Maybe we'll check my phone earlier in the morning, and you just end up in this state of just like shallow thinking. I think if I'm like checking stuff, I could so easily get into the habit, which I do most days, of have some like good quality of thought at the beginning of the day. But as soon as that goes, then most of the day is just like shallow switching between like email, WhatsApp, meetings, and it just ends up. And that's why I say, people might objectively look at my work day and be like, what are you talking about? You're working all this time. There's a fair amount of swanning around as well. But like to me, that's not, because, I can easily spend 2 hours doing like emails in the afternoon. It's like, I'm not actually working there. I'm just kind of like...
I think shallow thoughts is such a good way of putting it. Because I think often like interaction with kind of like social media and emails, it does keep you in that shallow like thought, whereas you're not really like
100%.
deep working or thinking.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think there is this, we feel like, when stuff is not going well, we need to be working more, we need to be busier. But it's recognizing that like, I'm so much more effective than I used to be. I used to be fucking useless. I'm a little bit less useless now. I'm still so ineffective. Honestly, I waste so much of my day. And, I'm even like, it's almost the more effective I become, again, still not great, the more I realize like just how ineffective most of the day is. And so I think through that lens, I really don't beat myself up about like, going for a 3-hour walk or like reading a book or like, checking out for the day. So I actually try and be a bit less reachable generally. Try and like, I know Tim Cook from Apple's up at, obviously he's doing a better job than me, but he's up at 5 a.m. making sure that he's getting out all the emails that need to go out at the start of the day, and it's just like on, everyone gets an answer straight away. I actually think there's something to be said for like taking a step back. Like I'm a very hands-off manager, leader, whatever you want to call it. So like, it's very much like that. You'll do a better job than me of solving this. I'm here if you want an opinion. But, and so that frees up a lot of time. I'm not good with details. I'm quite dyslexic, and so I really I just don't really have the patience with details. Ben luckily is very kind of detail oriented. So everyone's like, oh, but your cabin's got so much attention to detail. It's not mine, trust me. So that does free up quite a lot of time, because
You're not micromanaging, as it were.
yeah. And if I do have to do like, we just closed some funding and had to. They used a lawyer. We didn't. I had to do the legals, and I just got this list of like 60 clauses,
Wait, surely
60 changes.
AI, you just like...
Well, you think so, yeah, but it's like all over email. I'm not details enough oriented to figure out the AI tool to use, but it was things like changing the definition of business days, and I just have no attention for that kind of thing. I think we lost the camera.
Yeah, that's the...
Sorry, that's the hour. There we go.
Close. No, I just wanted to say it's all right. We got 2 more. If people think Hector's joking as well, like, or trying to be like entertaining for a podcast or something like that, he's not, in the sense that if I send you like a tower of WhatsApp text at like 7 p.m, I know, as soon as I send it, I'm like, oh, it's Hector. Like, I'm not going to get a response till the morning, which I like, because then you can really create that as and as you say,
You
you're
set
walking.
those boundaries
Sure.
as a press. Wow.
People expect it. Yeah, people expect it.
I love that. I need to stop replying so fast. It's actually only in my personal life I don't actually, and people expect like, but in my work life I'm like, "Dum." But actually I should interesting.
I heard a story which really stuck with me probably a couple of years ago. It's fairly early days of Unplugged. Just simple story that some CEO once just stopped replying to emails, and he realizes that after a while, like, no one cared. People just started figuring stuff out, and I was like, you probably can get away with that. And you still hear stories about people running companies who are like very old school and who never made the transition to email. And they get everything. They get their like stack of letters or printed out emails at the start of the day.
Is that what you're hoping for? That
I'm-
people just stop
I'm
sending
shooting for that.
postcards.
Yeah,
with
I'm shooting for
updates?
that. Honestly, that frees up so much time. It frees up so much time. Honestly, I would love to sit there each morning with my stack of correspondence and just flick through it like that with a pen. Like, honestly,
Have you stayed at a have you stayed at a cabin?
No, I haven't.
You must do that.
I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to. I just, this is so perfect that this is your business, that you are the founder. I just love that. It just so fits with, because I also think that businesses take on the traits of their founders.
100%.
It's like, it makes total sense that that's your kid. Do you know what I mean? I love that. Wait, can I ask, what prompted you to, like, what was your personal story? Were you feeling like you weren't unplugging a lot that prompted you to start this business?
Yeah, I think I just got really
Sorry.
just dissatisfied with the kind of busy life I was leading. So was doing the classic, like, work in London, flying around the world to set up these offices. So the tech company, we were like expanding internationally.
What was the tech company called?
It was called Nobly POS. So it's like iPad till system. So if you go into a restaurant or a cafe and they're using an iPad for the till. And the chapter I was in kind of ended in failure, but then the company kept going and actually sold to Revolut a couple of years ago. So
Nice.
Successful result in the end. But yeah, I was just a bit tired. I was drinking a lot of the time. I'm 4 years sober now, but at the time just had that, like, I think there was a lack of, in some elements of my life, I've always had a lot of self-assurance and belief in myself. And in other elements, I think up until especially that point, like, there was a part of me that I was never really comfortable in myself. So I think there was just this real, like, dissatisfaction. And then basically ended up at a silent retreat in the Himalayas in September 2019, which was this Buddhist temple on top of a mountain. So a friend of mine recommended it, and I initially kind of laughed it off. I thought, what would people think? Got myself out there, and it was incredible. It was, literally on top of a mountain. And the best thing about it is when you get there, they take your phone off you, and you spend 10 days cut off from the outside world. And that moment of just, like, handing in my phone and just being like, no one can contact me. Yeah, it was amazing.
You're like, I'm going to do this even when I have my phone.
100%, yeah, exactly. Because up until that point, I think I'm a bit of a people pleaser as well. So, like, I was always very sociable through like my teenage years, university. So I was, like, always with people. Like, never went on holiday on my own, any of these kind of things. So always in the pub or whatever it was. And I think that at that period of my life, I just, like, discovered this, like, introverted side of me. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So had that silent retreat, literally came back from that, quit my job a week later, off the back of a conversation with Ben, who had left the startup at that point, but we'd stayed friends. Told him about it. He's the opposite. So the company isn't just everyone acting like me, because Ben's at the other end of the spectrum, and so we meet somewhere in the middle.
Nice.
But actually, that's been a really positive balance, and that relationship generally has been wonderful. And so I told him about it. You know, he was kind of initially skeptical, but really helped kind of bring it to more of a middle ground, and spent 3 hours Googling cabins on a Friday night and quit on Monday. Wow. So that was it. And that was just before the pandemic.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, so that was October 2019. And then we ordered our first cabin in January didn't have the money for it, didn't have anywhere to put it. But it was like, if we order a cabin, we kind of have to figure out that other stuff. And then the pandemic obviously hit in March. So luckily we had the cabin on the way. So then we had to figure it out. And then that arrived in June. Government lifted the lockdown in July. So it all worked out well in the end.
Amazing. Cool. What a cool story. So
Thank you
yeah,
for
it really
asking.
did come out of you having that Himalaya experience and then being like, I want more people to experience that.
Yeah, it was literally like, I think this is missing. Like, I kind of want to go to a cabin and lock my phone in a box. And like, that has always been because I think a company becomes, you know, very much the culture becomes a reflection of the founders, but also like the insight, right? And I think what's interesting is like that is very much still the insight. It's like actually, because there are quite a lot of cabin companies in the world now, with, you know, similar looking cabins, etc. But that's all about getting people to nature, which is also great, obviously, and obviously that's what we're doing too. But don't care about the phone side of things. And for us, like, that is the kind of reason for being. It's like most people today haven't spent 3 days off their phone in the last decade. Let's see what happens if they can do that, And if you actually go and do that, it takes about a day for the mind to settle down. So the first day you're a bit more anxious.
You have
then
kind
you
of like withdrawal.
Yeah, exactly. You get like a phantom buzz, but then you just access this deep sense of calm. And that's how we're supposed to operate. Like, that's not accessing some magical state. That is like accessing
like the
the
resting
state.
state.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
wow.
And it's that we're spending the rest of our lives in this constant state of overstimulation from the modern world. So like, if you look at people living in native tribes now, they're not anxious, they're not waking up with stress in the night, they're just chilled, because that's how humans are built to operate. So it's really about helping people feel human again.
Oh, I love that. Is that your tagline?
Working on it. I'm trying to get out
Feel
today.
human again.
Have you spent 3 days without your phone the last 10 years?
No, I was just thinking that, and I was definitely not.
Have you?
Have you? Yeah, have you?
This is not about me, guys. I'm the moderator. All right, there might be a nice time to wrap up. Georgia, thanks so much for coming along. Tell everyone where they can buy your furniture, get involved in your uni stuff, be a part of your energy in your world. Like,
well, you can't. Well, unless you're at Oxford, you can't get uni yet. Sorry, but we'll be coming to your university very soon. So definitely get in contact if you have ideas of how we can best do that. If you want some incredible furniture made all out of recycled materials, I don't really know where I'm supposed to be looking.
just into
Wherever.
It's either. Then look us up, Burniture. The catalogue's online. And if you are a startup or a creative, need help with creative direction in any way, a bit of consultancy, I'm always happy to come on a call and like pro bono stuff, just for good vibes.
Love it, Georgia. Well, very excited for the future of uni after chatting to you for an hour. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Okay.
Does your brain never feel like this?